If we can go ahead and have everybody's attention at this time. Time is now 6:01, and we're going to bring the meeting to order for the public hearing, and we'd like to welcome and glad to have everybody here, and like to have Dr. Sterling lead us in prayer.
Can we bow our heads? Almighty God, you have created all people and all creation. We give you thanks for this gift we're invited to engage in with hope, joy, and love. Help us to put our heads together in this meeting and do what is best for the community. And these things I ask and pray in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Like,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I asked somebody to approve the agenda. Okay. Yep. Okay, going right into our public hearing agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Okay. At this time, we'll turn over the new business, number 1 and 2. And Ab's going to handle that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. We have 2 items on our public hearing agenda, items 1 and 2. A public hearing has been called on item 1Z-23-05 rezoning. Shannon Sell, applicant and property owner, seeks to rezone from A, agricultural district to R2, single-family suburban residential district, approximately 0.8 acres, fronting approximately 150 feet on the east side of 382 East Jefferson Street, part of map parcel 119/019. The proposed use is for single-family detached dwelling, and I hereby open that public hearing. Jennifer, could you confirm that public notice has been given? All right, after we hear a report from Mr. Whites, we will allow speakers both in support of and in opposition to the application. All speakers must abide by the following rules, and these rules will apply both to items 1 and 2 on the public hearing agenda. Please state your name, address, and whether you live in the city of Houston. Speak only to the merits of the application. Address all comments to council. Refrain from personal attacks. Discuss the facts instead of giving opinions and speculation. To allow an opportunity to as many people who wish to speak as possible, please don't duplicate points that have already been made. Each side will have a total of 10 minutes to speak. If we have multiple speakers, I will limit time accordingly so that everyone can speak. Agendas and outlines of public hearing procedures are located just outside the entrance to the meeting room. And after the hearing is closed, the matter will be returned to the mayor and council to move on to the next items. Mr. White?
Yes, thank you. This application is by Mr. Shannon Sell. It has nothing to do with the postponed item later on the agenda. This has to do with the less than an acre of land. The applicant would like to rezone the property from A, agricultural, to R2 in order to divide the property for a lot that consists of about 0.77 acres. The city planning staff has reviewed it, wrote a staff report, recommends approval without any conditions.
All right, does anyone wish to speak in support of the application? If so, please raise your hand. All right, Mr. Sell. Again, you'll have 10 minutes. If you'll state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston, you'll have up to 10 minutes. You can reserve any of that time as you wish for rebuttal.
Good evening, everybody. So, hopefully most of you know where this house is. It was the house that just almost adjacent to my driveway. I built the house in 2016. It was for my mother-in-law. She passed away earlier this year. And, the house, when I built it, was part of the big tract of the farm. So I'm either gonna sell it, rent it, or 1031 it into something else. And to do that, I didn't want to sell it with 100 acres. I want to sell it with a regular residential lot. So that's all I'm doing here. No high rises, no hotels, no shopping centers, no, just one house that's already built, and, we're done with it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sell. If anyone else wishes to speak in support of the application, please raise your hand. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please raise your hand. All right, sir, if you want to come on up. If you'll approach the podium, state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston, you'll have up to 10 minutes.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the people personally for coming. Unfortunately, the Twin Lakes people, only 2 of us, I think, showed up. But
If you will state your name, your address.
My name is John Caruso, and my address is 47 Michigan Circle in Houston.
Thank you.
Been here for a little over 2 years now. I feel that the burden of all of those homes and all those residents will be exceptional in this area for traffic, schools, and it'll put an undue burden on the community at this point in time. I don't think the roads can support that traffic, and that's my opinion, period.
I think maybe, are you talking about the one that was tabled, the bigger development that Mr. Sell's involved in? All right.
Is that coming up, or-
It is. That's one of our work session items. We're going to have citizen input at the end of the work session. And then yes, sir. And I will ask for a show of hands. We have some folks that have signed up. I'll also ask for a show of hands. And at that time, you can come up and offer any comments you wish on that item. We'll give each speaker up to 3 minutes. So just be thinking about what you want to say, and we'll invite you up at that time. But did you have any comments on this application that Mr. Sell mentioned, the 0.8 acres?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right, do y'all have any questions for anyone? All right, then I'll close the public hearing and move on to item 2. A public hearing has been called on item 2, Resolution 23-12, a resolution authorizing the transmittal of the annual update of the comprehensive plan, including capital improvements element and community work program for regional and state review. And I hereby open that public hearing. Jennifer, could you confirm that public notice has been given?
It has.
All right, Mr. Whites.
Yes, this item is for a public hearing, and it involves an annual update to the comprehensive plan. The city is required to annually update the comprehensive plan now that it has an impact fee program. And so what I've done as the planner is rewritten the capital improvement element for a couple of reasons. One, the growth has been so fast that we needed to have new population and employment projections done. We're showing that in 20 years the city will be a population of almost 15,000 people. And then the other element of it was, of course, the fire impact fee was done away with per settlement agreement with Coulter, and so there were pieces of the capital improvement element that had all this information about fire, approving and building fire facilities and so forth, and all of that has gone away because we're not charging impact fees for fire facilities anymore. And whatever fees that we collected for that will be under the old capital improvement program and can be spent for those items. And so then that left us with a change to the park requirements, as well as the police, the law enforcement, and court. And as I said, the city has grown tremendously in the last few years to the point where the level of service that we established in 2020 is staying the same, but because of so many people, the amount of facilities that we need has grown tremendously. And so there's basically, even though we plan to put the police department into the old City Hall building, that's not enough space as far as the growth projections show, and so we already need to be planning for a new facility for a police department. So that's all in there, and I would say that what we're asking the council to do Oh, well, the other part of it is the community work program, and that is still a work in progress in terms of the city manager and staff are still looking at that to see if there's some different items that we need to put in there. But your objective, or what we'd like you to do on Monday, is not adopt this, but to adopt a resolution that transmits the plan document draft to the region, the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission, and then on to the State Department of Community Affairs for their review. They do a compliance review, and then if they say that it meets the standards, then it comes back to you for an adoption. We project that that would be at your October meeting for adoption of this comprehensive plan as amended, if needed, prior to the October 31st deadline that the state's given us to get this done. That's it.
Thank you, Jerry. Rather than ask for speakers in opposition and in support, does anyone wish to offer any comments as to this item? If so, please raise your hand and I'll call you up. All right, do y'all have any questions for anyone? Okay, then I'll close the public hearing, and that's all the items on our public hearing agenda.
Very good. I'll make a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn, from public hearing. Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Carries, okay. Then we'll open up the work session agenda. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Okay. The first old business.
Yes, all in favor, James?
Okay, all in favor, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. Very good. The first item of old business is, once again, we're still looking at the ordinance as far as amending the code of ordinance of the city of Houston for Chapter 11, Traffic and Vehicles. This is something that Chief Hill's been working on to come up with a good, solid ordinance for cars being parked on the side of the streets, whether crossing over into the sidewalks, things like that. We're trying to come up with a fair ordinance to keep from, I guess, ticketing cars that don't need to be ticketed. So therefore, Chief Hill's given it his due diligence, and we'll continue to do that. But we're going to table it probably on Monday's meeting. We're going to recommend a table so we can continue to come up with a better policy. Because once we put it in place, if your car's parked on the side of the street, it's going to be on him to write you a ticket. Or if it's parked across the sidewalk. So therefore, we're going to look into this very strongly. We're looking at what other cities do in comparison to what we kind of want our city to have here in Houston. Okay? Okay, we move on to item number 2. We'll turn this item over to Jerry Weiss for his...
Thank you, Mayor. This item, thank you, Jennifer. This item, as you know, we held a public hearing on it back in May and also another second public hearing in June. This matter was disputed by Jackson County. We went into a formal objection process with them where there was a annexation arbitration panel that was appointed and so forth. That matter was ultimately settled with agreement of the applicant, the Providence Group. They agreed to a county suggestion that the project be reduced in scope from 399 housing units to 334 housing units. And so that took care of that part of it. We have been working, city manager and I, for the last 2 months, working with the Providence Group, trying to negotiate conditions of approval that would meet both the city's best interests as well as those of the developer. We were pretty successful at that. There were a few that we did not ultimately have agreement on, one of which had to do with interconnection between public roads and whether the road through the development would be public or private. But in the end, what has happened since then is that the applicant, the Providence Group, has, as we understand it, assigned, they are removing themselves from the application, meaning, I don't know all the reasons for that, won't try and say that I do, but they've so-called backed out of the deal, and they've assigned Mr. Shannon Sell, the major property owner, the rights to the application. So in that regard, we've negotiated further with Mr. Sell and come to mostly an agreement to recommend approval with conditions. There's a memo to the council that was dated today's date, and I understand the staff got it put on the agenda package that's publicly available. That talks about some of the changes to the annexation ordinance that are recommended in order to satisfy the new applicant, so to speak, Mr. Sell, and that we would be in agreement with. And so, in the end, the staff recommendation is for approval with the conditions that are in the ordinance draft, but as modified by the memo dated today. So that's where we are, and there's a lot that you can talk about if you need to about the various conditions, but I'm going to stop there and let the council guide as to what you want to hear and talk about and so forth.
I want to make a motion. Can I do that now?
We can't take votes in work session.
A motion, I say.
A motion
To a recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a recommendation to mayor and council. Because of this new memorandum, I haven't honestly had the time to review it, just got it maybe an hour and a half ago, maybe 2 hours ago. Also, anyway, my recommendation is to have mayor and council consider holding off on voting for this until we have a fully seated mayor and council.
Yeah, Debbie, what I meant about making a motion is you can't have that, like, ask for a second vote on it tonight, but Monday you could make that same statement and actually make it in the form of a motion, and then it could be voted on to table it or whatever. It's just we can't vote to table tonight since we're at the work session.
Right, she's not, I think, I understand
You see
what
what
you're
I'm
saying. She's just wanting y'all to consider on Monday to, table this item. Is that what you?
So, make another,
Yeah, because since we're in work session, we can't approve things in work session.
no, I wasn't suggesting to
Okay.
approve or disapprove, just to
Consider it.
consider.
Right.
Any other questions for Dr. Weiss from the council? Okay. If not, we'll move on to the City Hall Community Center building signs. Jennifer Harris?
So we had we had 5 quotes for our new City Hall and Community Center building signs. Our staff recommendation is to go with the lowest. It was from $10,750 all the way to $15,725. So we are recommending to go with the lowest quote, which is $10,750. And this is from Davis Designs out of Athens.
How many signs is that? Is that one on each building?
That would be, yes, that would be the, I'll show y'all a picture of it. So this is what we had sent in. So it would just be the City Hall and the Community Center.
Very good. Any questions for Jennifer Harrison as far as on the signs from the council? Okay. Moving right along, to new business. Got Mr. Jerry Hood is gonna talk about the, booster pump station. Mr.
Mayor
Hood?
and council, the city authorized, plans and specifications for, booster pumping station on Amy Industrial. The purpose of that station is to raise the, Jackson County pressure, 20 feet in head to match the datum in the city's water system. That project is funded in part by American Rescue Plan funds. We did take bids on it about 2 months ago. We got no bids. This time, I'm very proud to say that Monday we opened bids again. We got 3 bids from very qualified contractors. We have reviewed the bids. The low bid is that of All South Constructors of Covington, Georgia. Low bid is $718,105. Again, part of that will be covered by ARPA grant, American Rescue Plan, $440,000 and $278,000 in budgeted local funds. We see no reason not to award that contract to All South. The council feels led to do that. We will. We have in your package. We have a suggested resolution and a notice of award to to the contractor. We did do due diligence on All South. They're very, very qualified, and we're very, very pleased with the bid results.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. Is there any questions from the council to Mr. Hood about this item?
We got music coming.
Where that's coming from? No charge for that. If not, moving right along to, Mr. Hood's also going to speak to us about the Houston Park lease agreement. Mr. Hood, if you will.
Yes, Mayor and Council, the city's park on Cabin Drive is under a long-term lease for management and operation to Jackson County Parks and Recreation. This change would allow basically the city to utilize the top 4 acres of the unused property for a new public works facility. It modifies that agreement to allow that as a use, basically, and also extends the lease term as the county does plan to make some capital improvements on the park.
Any questions for Mr. Hood as far as the Houston Park lease agreement? Is there plans to put any pickleball courts or anything in there, Jerry? Or?
I think it's being discussed, but I don't know their exact plans. Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. And item number 3, millage rate discussion. Turn that over to Ms. Tiffany.
Mayor and council, I got with the tax commissioner, and she had presented the city with the numbers to take a rollback this year. Instead of staying at the 3.5 mills, we would go to 2.954 mills. She said the rollback takes into account the inflationary growth that the city has. With the rollback, we would receive the same amount of funds as we did last year, plus any new growth that the city has had. So with that, hopefully it would keep so much burden off of the city taxpayers. They should hopefully pay a little bit closer to what they paid last year, minus just the new growth. So that would put us a little over 200,000 more than where we were last year. But it wouldn't increase it. Staying at the 3.5 would be an increase for this year. So I would recommend us going with the rollback. And looking at the budget, I think we would be fine with it.
We brought in over $1 million, correct?
It was like 970-something thousand last year.
Any other questions for Tiffany? From the council. If not, we'll move to item number 4. Miss Debbie Martin is going to speak to us about some of the rental parcels that we have. And Miss Debbie, if you'll go ahead and speak about item number 4.
Hello, everyone. Yes, we received 3 bids, 2 for the restaurant space next door and 1 for the old police department, although it's been very active, lots of people looking. The one that we got for I don't know, do I want to call it the old police department yet? Because you haven't moved yet, but the current, I can't keep up with all his moving. The current police department, we received an RFP from Juke and Jive, which we will discuss today in executive session, I'm sure. And then we also received two for the restaurant space next door, one from Matt Rupel, who also has bid on Larry's Garage, what we know as Larry's Garage, and the second bid was from Josh and his partner who owns Sliced. Both of those RFPs are for Italian food. So we'll be discussing that today in executive session.
Any questions from Ms. Debbie, from any of the council? On number 4 and number 5, she added. Okay. All right, we'll move on to item number 6, notice of intent to initiate amendments to subdivision regulations, zoning ordinances, provision for adoption of official corridor map, subdivision regulations, and comprehensive. We're going to turn this over to Dr. Weiss.
Mayor and council, there's 3 items that we want to bring to you in September for public hearing and potential adoption. First one has to do with what I'm calling an official corridor map. In so many words, this is a technique to reserve land for future public road right-of-ways, and it's a matter of some urgency, in my opinion, because of the growth that we have and the current applications that are pending in the city, particularly on the east side of State Route 53. And I won't go into detail because it's written up in the memo, but we'd like to introduce that as a comprehensive plan amendment, and then also an amendment to the subdivision and land development regulations that would help us reserve right-of-ways for future roads where needed. The second item has to do with an amendment to the zoning procedures law that was passed by the General Assembly this year, Senate Bill 213. It has to do with allowing anyone who has a non-conforming manufactured home to be able to replace it with a brand new off the lot only manufactured home. And so that's something we believe you need to incorporate into the zoning ordinance, so we'll bring that one to you. And then the third one is an item that was really back to 2019, and there was discussion at that time about doing something to implement it, but it never really got done. And so it's on our list of community work program to do. And so this has to do with small, what I'd call small cell sites or small wireless facilities. Basically, the state law that was passed in 2019 allows wireless carriers to put small cell sites in public right-of-ways, and the city doesn't have any choice about it. You have to allow it. And so, but there needs to be there should be an implementing ordinance to do that. And so even though this is kind of old business 2019, it's on our list to do, and we think that we need to put it in the zoning ordinance, so we would bring that to you for public hearing in September and adoption. If you have any questions about any of these, I'll be glad to try and answer.
Any questions for Dr. Weiss on any of these items? All right. Moving right along to number 7 and 8. Tiffany Wheeler's going to speak on both of these about the stormwater effects that the Huston's being faced with. Tiffany, if you want to go ahead.
Can I do 7 and 8 together, or do I need to? Okay. So for 7 and 8, we are just wanting to adopt the ordinance for stormwater fees. In it, that when we originally were going to try to do it ourselves, it had us billing biannually, and the way that we were doing it was based on a tiered classification. But the county, since we put it on the property tax bills, is saying that that's just a lot for them to go in and figure out. So they needed it more simplified, and have asked us to I guess, kind of do it by zoning. And we had to send them a list broke down by parcel numbers to plug in exactly what they wanted to do. So in your packet, you will have a list of the new stormwater fees that are broke down by residential, commercial, PUDs in the different areas, and it goes anywhere from $50 to $200. I don't think we have any that were at the $200 range. I think most were between the $50 to $100, but these would go on this year's property tax bills. Last year, we only did the $50 and across the board, and it's not enough for the department itself to do the things we need to do in it. So,
Tiffany, does the county charge us as a city to implement the billing system as far as collections?
so they charge us it's $1 per tax bill that goes out between property taxes and MS4.
Very good. You good?
Mhm.
Any questions for Tiffany Wheeler as far as on this, from the council on the stormwater? Anybody?
Hey, and can I make one correction on the millage from earlier? Because I told Debbie the wrong number. I was thinking MS4 and property tax, I've got them all on my brain right now. So property tax, we only collected like $740 for the year.
That's what I
We thought it would be about $750, and then, MS4 was right at $100 for the year. So that's why I had the $900,000 on my brain, but, so it was closer. So we'll get about $250,000 this year with the increase, with the rollback. Sorry.
Okay. You good with that, Miss Debbie? Okay, good. All right. That's fine. Yeah. It was a little different number. At this time, we're gonna go to, Ab Hayes, our city attorney, for citizen input.
All right, Tiffany passed around a sign-up sheet, or somebody did anyway, and we had a number of sign-ups. Let me call out the names of folks that signed up: Wayne Lancaster, Mary Ann Pendergast, Rosalind Bonner, Vance, I'm sorry, Debbie Altieri, Bob McDevitt, Joe Sherwood, and Tina Brown. Other than those folks, is there anybody else that wants to offer comments tonight? If so, raise your hand. All right, what's your name, ma'am? Davis. All right, anybody else other than Ms. Davis and the others? All right, each of y'all will have 3 minutes. I'm going to call you up one by one. Y'all can form a line if you wish, or I'll call you up one by one. We'll start with Ms. Davis, if you'll come up. State your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston. You'll have up to 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm Janet Davis, 7765 Pendergrass Road. This will be short and sweet. I want to reiterate what has been said in past meetings. We need infrastructure before we allow more homes to be built in Houston and Jackson County. The roads, water, sewer, police, and fire cannot keep up with the demand of what is already here. What makes you think it will be any better to add on more houses to what is already exhausted and outdated? We need to take a step back and look at what is working, or mainly not working. It's time to plan for the here and now. Let's fix what's broken before making more problems that you won't fix. Mr. Sell is well known for griping about the traffic in front of his house. Well, does he think that adding more houses is going to make less traffic? I don't think so. West Jackson Road and Pendergrass Road are not equipped to handle that volume of traffic that this will bring. They are 2-lane country roads, and that's what they were built for, just the country. Let me remind you of who elected you for the position of councilman. It is the citizens of this city, and you work for the citizens and not the developer. I very much urge you to listen to the citizens, and we are saying we do not want this in our city. Please do the right thing and say no to all rezoning and building at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Ms. Brown? If you will state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Tracy started at the bottom and went up. Tina Brown, 205 Quail Run, and I'm a citizen of Houston. Two things tonight. One, the time from the application for rezoning, annexation, whatever it is that we're putting on the agenda, I think I've mentioned this before. I think we need more than 6 weeks. The packet's not available typically until 1 week prior. This week's packet, 129 pages, it's been 180 and other things. 1 week is not long enough to consider Mr. White's report because he needs time to write it. And we certainly need to review that report, all attached documents, and consider them very seriously before making some very significant changes. Significant changes deserve more than minimal time, Council. So we also would hope that you would not only read and consider, but to seek public input and listen and consider that as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I'd like to talk about is with the decision not to fill the seats vacated in February and March, we're functioning with half of the council. The council was expanded in 2021 to 6 seats for a reason, and that reason is representation. We do not currently have that representation. It may be legal, but it is not ethical in the broader sense, not the legally defined sense, and it is not moral for 3 people to decide the future for over 15,000. That's current and future residents. These are critical decisions for Houston's future. Critical. We've already discussed ad nauseum all the things from fire to police to roads to everything, schools. Please just consider that 3 people hold the future of 15,000 in their hands. It should not be that we are making these critical decisions with half a council. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Sherwood? Mr. Sherwood? All right. Mr. McDevitt?
I sent you an email.
And if you would state your name, your address, and whether you're a resident of the city of Houston.
117 Powell Court, and I'm a resident of the city, and I'm a voter of the city, registered voter. And I thank Dr. Sterling, and I thank Martin for responding to my email. I appreciated that. And basically, everybody covered pretty much what I had to say, but the reason I wanted to get up was, like, when we did the city tax, we had 3 public hearings on it. I spoke at 2 of them. I was at 3 of them. And then after the vote, after we closed that public part of the hearing, and then we had the vote, there was 1, 2, 3, 1 vote negative to the city tax. I thank the young gentleman that voted against it, that felt strongly that way. It was right here in the city. And then when I was talking to the mayor at the time, the mayor said, oh, well, we voted it in because there wasn't any pushback on it. And that wasn't the truth. There was a lot of pushback on the city tax. Now, whether it should have been 1% or 3.5, that's neither here nor there. There was a lot of pushback on it, and she said there was no pushback. Now I just heard, I was out of town for the convenience store and the gas station, and I heard the same thing. It came back that, well, there's only no pushback on that. So I'm coming up here to say there is a lot of pushback. Everybody I talked to was concerned for the reasons Tina and everybody else spoke about. And the doctor over here talked about, 15,000 citizens in the next 10 years. I know there's 1,200 new students in the Jackson County school system this week over a year ago, same week. The expansion is tremendous. So I'm just saying that I think, as a citizen, we need to slow down and think and plan this stuff out, because we still don't know, what the impact of Crestwind and Twin Lakes is going to have. It's not nearly built out yet. And so the expansion and the dollars that have to be spent, and if you add more and more communities and annex more, agricultural land, it's just a bad time. And then I'll end it with, and I just feel the same thing. We have an interim mayor who's not going to run for mayor, from what I hear, So if that's not the case, then you're just in an interim position, and we don't have all the council seats, sitting here elected yet. And I think we just need to hold off to these big decisions that have a dramatic impact, on the city, years out. And that 3.5 is down to 294 or whatever it was, that's great, but it could be 6, in 10 years from now. And that's an impact on all of us, especially the retirees of this, So I really appreciate you thinking about the long term of all of us in the city. And that expansion, I don't see the upside right now in the short term for a lot of expansion. We need to just pace ourselves and then see where we come out in 5 years with the Crestwood Twin Lakes situation, and then revisit it, before we bring any more big subdivisions, into the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Altieri? Ms. Altieri? If you'll state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston, you'll have up to 3 minutes, and after you, I'll call up Ms. Vance.
Okay, should I repeat that?
That was fine.
It's fine, okay. Okay, I have here a list of 112 people who are opposed to the future annexation of surrounding properties, including but not limited to Bell's property, the Kennerly property. I wanted to bring this to council, okay, not in an adversarial manner, but I was very concerned when I heard that there were only 2 people in opposition on that gas station. When I know 3 people, personally, I was one of them, who sent an email, okay, opposing it. And I tried to go to every single meeting where there was a public meeting. And I'm not sure if numbers are recorded, like how many people are in the room tonight. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that we have 112 people, and I only got a name today, that are opposed to this kind of approving any of this annexation at this point. We're not saying we don't want it, but there's every single, month or so, there's another little property that gets popped up, and then, oh yeah, this happened and this happened. And we're busting at the seams. And all the details, each council person has the details on how I feel about it, because I sent you emails in July and August, so I don't need to go through it again. Anyway, I don't know who gets this.
I'll give it to Ms. Harrison. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Altieri.
I appreciate the consideration.
Did you have other comments, Ms. Altieri? All right, thank you. Ms. Vance? Thank you, Ms. Vance. Ms. Pendergast, and then after you, our last one will be Mr. Lancaster. Okay. Mr. Lancaster? If you'll state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Wayne Lancaster. I live at 225 Chateau Drive in Crestwood, and my comments may be